Hey guys, it's Alex, and I know I said I was going to get better about hauling books. I have, for the most part, and then I just went shopping with my friend 2 days ago and bought a bunch of books. So now I have a giant haul for you. I've dropped them like 3 times trying to hold them up for the... This is the giant stack of books that I have bought. It was unnecessary, but so much fun. First, I'm going to go through the books I bought in January because there were only 2, which was very, very good of me. And I'm also not going to include books I was sent by fellow booktubers because I do haul those in my vlog, so if you're interested in seeing what fellow booktubers send me, click on any vlog that includes book mail because there will be something in there of me opening something. The 2 books I bought in January were Fearless, the first Fearless by Francine Pascal. I'm slowly collecting these. I have like 10 to 15 of them, I believe, and I didn't have this one. I'm just, as I find them in thrift stores, I'm adding them to my collection. I think there are like 35 in the series, so I will get there eventually, and I'm sure once I get closer to the end, I'll just like buy myself the last 5 or 10. And I picked up Us Against You by Fredrik Backman. I couldn't resist this book. It was a hardback, so it was slightly more expensive, and I usually don't buy hardbacks because they're like $3 at the thrift store I go to, which is a lot for me, but this is a 2018 release. It's so pretty. I really want to read Beartown, and this is the sequel to Beartown, so I kind of figured I couldn't pass that up, and I'm okay with that. Fredrik Backman honestly just seems like someone that I'd really, really love. I haven't read anything of his yet. I do have A Man Called Ova, and now I have this, and I do really want to read Beartown, so eventually I'm going to have to read him before I just continue collecting all his books. The rest of these books I bought on literally the same day at 2 different stores because I have a problem. The first 4 are from Second and Charles. First, from the free bin, I grabbed a His Dark Materials bind-up by Philip Pullman. This includes all 3 books in that series, which is The Golden Compass, or Northern Lights if you're in the UK, The Amber Spyglass, and The Subtle Knife, I think. I already own all of these, but it was such a pretty bind-up, and it was in the free bin, and I couldn't resist it, so I will now have to figure out which sets of these I'm getting rid of. I don't actually know if I even want this book, but because it was free, I figured I'd grab it and decide later. So I will have to decide what I'm doing with this, but it's so pretty, honestly. I love it. And then inside the store, I grabbed the 14th Fearless book because, again, I'm just slowly collecting these, and I was very happy to find one that I didn't already have. And the ones I'm collecting are all the same edition, which is why it's very slow, my collecting process, because I do want them all to match. And they have a number that don't match mine, that are like the white covers, but I don't really like those as much, so I'm just going through and getting these. And I have Life as We Knew It by Susan Beth Pfeffer. I have The Dead and the Gone, and I don't know that I've ever read the series in its entirety, because I believe there are 4 books, there might be 3, I don't know. But I do want to read these, and I just honestly love Susan Beth Pfeffer, and she's kind of one of those people that if I see her books for cheap, I just grab them, because she writes really great YA and middle grade books. Like, she's really underrated, I believe. And the final book I got from Second and Charles was The Realms of the Gods by Tamora Pierce. I do already own this book, but I bought the entire quartet of this when I was in middle school, I believe. Middle school or high school. And somewhere along the way, I lost the 1st and the 4th ones, and have replaced them, but they don't match. This book, this cover, matches the series that I originally had, so I couldn't resist picking it up, because it's one of my favorite series, and like, for $2, I'm okay paying a little bit extra to have a matching series. Like, that's worth it to me, and I'll just unhaul the other one at some point. Finally, I'm getting into the books I bought from Goodwill on the same day that I went to Second and Charles. And this was kind of where the problem was and where I went overboard. My friend and I went to the Goodwill in the very affluent part of town, where there are a lot of very wealthy people who donate a lot of very nice things. And that Goodwill is always very stocked full of wonderful things. And I wound up getting a lot of books there. And a number of the books that I got there were hardback, and hardback books are just a little bit more expensive and they add up very quickly. So that was kind of where this haul went sort of wrong for me. I did spend too much money and more than I really should have spent, and I'm not like hurting for that in any way. I probably should have stopped around like $15 instead of going up to almost $25. First I grabbed Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I don't own this book, and I've actually never read it. I was supposed to read it in high school, and I told my teacher I already had because she said if we'd already read the book, we could pick a book of our own, and it wasn't that I had anything against this book, I just wanted to pick a book that I wanted to read instead of being assigned, so she believed me because I read a lot, but I still kind of feel bad about that, and I do actually really want to read this book. Next, I grabbed The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. This is about a poor black woman in the 1950s. Her cells were taken without her knowledge, without her consent, and her cells were used in some sort of sciencey thing I don't really understand, but like her DNA has been kept alive for many, many years, and her children found out, and like no one has ever been compensated for any of this. It was just sort of like she was taken advantage of because she was a poor black woman. This is a nonfiction book, and it sounds really, really interesting. My boyfriend recommended me this a year or two ago, and it's just a fascinating and horrible story, and I really do want to learn more about it. I don't actually know too much about it right now, but this was definitely one that I'd been keeping an eye out for. I also picked up As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. I have read this. I read this in high school and really hated it, and I do think I was probably a little bit young for this book, and I didn't really do Southern Gothic very well. I'm still sort of iffy on Southern Gothic, but I do want to give it another try, and I just feel like this is a book that's really important, and one that I should own, and one that I should try again at some point, and for $1, I was willing to give it a chance, and this is just, I do really like this cover, it just looks very pretty. And I grabbed The Husband's Secret by Lianne Moriarty. This is just a Lianne Moriarty book. I do enjoy reading her books. They're never my favorites, but they're like enjoyable, fun women's fiction reads, and for $1, I figured I'd grab it. I probably didn't need this one. This was, of all of them, I didn't need to buy this. I could have just grabbed it from the library, but it was there, and I have no self-control. Probably the most shameful book that I bought that's almost not even a real book, honestly, is Hanson, an Unauthorized Biography. I don't know who it's by. I don't think there's an author on here. I don't think anyone really cares. There's nothing in this book that isn't on their Wikipedia page, I'm sure. It's like from the early 2000s probably, or maybe 99, who knows. It doesn't really mean anything. Honestly, I don't know that I'll ever read it. It's just Hanson, and I love Hanson so much. They're one of my favorite bands. Like, they're just so genuinely good, and they make me happy, and I saw this book and really could not resist, even if it's not like a real book, kind of. The 3 hardbacks I got, I'm really happy with. It was like $10 to buy all 3 of these, which is a lot for me, like an unnecessary a lot, but they were all so pretty and in such good condition, and all books I really, really wanted, so yeah, I couldn't resist. That's the theme of this haul, and honestly my life. I just couldn't resist. The first is 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. I have The Kite Runner, I have And the Mountains Echoed. I haven't read And the Mountains Echoed, but I've read this and The Kite Runner, and this is one of my favorites. I'm actually planning to reread this in April, May, something like that. I'm planning to reread this sometime soon for my reread-a-thon. And I'd seen this, a hardback copy of this in Goodwill a few months ago and didn't buy it because I was like, I'm going to use self-control. And I've kind of regretted it ever since because this is a book that I really want to own. So when I saw it again, I just picked it up, and I don't feel guilt over this one. This one is justified. Like, I do actively want to own this book and reread it. And I have Unaccustomed Earth by Jhumpa Lahiri. I have The Namesake, and I haven't read it yet, but I do want to own more Jhumpa Lahiri books. I mean, I want to read more, not just own more. I read one of her short stories when I took an International Short Fiction by Women course, and I did really enjoy it, and I know she's very well known. This is a book of short stories. I don't really know too much about it. It's just, she's highly acclaimed, and honestly someone I want to read, so I picked it up for that reason, if for really nothing else. And the final book in this haul, and honestly the one that I'm probably most excited for, well, that's not true. I'm very excited for some of the others, but I was so excited to find this book because I heard such good things about it, and like everyone seems to love it so much, and it is Unbroken by Hillenbrand. This is a nonfiction book about a soldier during World War II, I believe. Don't really know too much about it, but apparently he had a really horrible, really traumatic life, and it's supposed to be a really, really stunning book. I've seen multiple people have it on their favorites for nonfiction or their favorites for the year and things like that, and it just seems like the kind of thing that I would absolutely love. So I picked it up. I'm so excited I picked it up. I'm so excited to read it because I have really wanted to read it. And now that it's on my shelf, I will probably read it in about 4 years. But now I have it, so I will definitely read it at some point. And it just seems amazing. Like, I honestly couldn't believe that there was, like, a really beautiful, pretty hardcover of this book that sounded so, so amazing. So I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about most of the books in my haul, even though I'm supposed to be buying fewer books, but 15 books for both January and February is kind of okay. That's like 7 books a month-ish, which is not that many. It is 7 books a month if you don't count the Hanson book, which really doesn't count as a book. And I got some duplicates, so that's not too bad. I just like buying books because it makes me happy. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if there are any I should prioritize, if there are any you didn't like, just because I'm always curious what people think of them. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all again soon.